My heart is heavy, my soul not free. I feel this every day. Maybe I'm just guilty. Dominica has become this way, where our people are standing on political mischief and division, and politicians control citizens' hearts and soul before God, before land, before church, before family and country. Here, Dominica, my true confession is what I didn't do. I watched you suffer, for my allegiance was to someone else, not you. Your advantages, many in numbers, the patriots are few. So it's no wonder we are where we are. We did not stand with you. Now we are best in poverty, fruits of our misplaced loyalty. Now we must turn back to country, each and everybody, beginning with me. Lots of signs, but none so blind as he who will not see. Loyalty to party is the road to poverty. Has division brought us progress? Are our people enjoying success? It is already late. Come, let's grab our faith and repatriate our hearts, our minds to our country. Urgently, dear Dominica, my true confession is what I didn't do. I watched you suffer, for my allegiance was to someone else, not you. All your exploiters, many are strangers, the patriots are few. So it's no wonder we are where we are. We did not stand with you. Now we live with hostility, fruits of our misplaced loyalty. Now we must turn back to country first, immediately, beginning with me.
All right, let me say a special greetings, a special welcome, a special hello to all of you locked into that space at this time. That is the Civic Vibe space. Special greetings to all of you who are already on here with us. It's already 5 minutes past that hour of 6 o'clock. And yes, another very interesting program which you guys this afternoon complements the Civic Vibes team. This evening, we're going to discuss a very important issue that has been, unfolding in Dominica for the past time. And we're going to step it up a notch here this evening in terms of just how and what we can do with that much talked about free, fair, and transparent election for Dominica, the need that is for free and fair and transparent elections for Dominica. So all of you already on the live this afternoon, I want to thank you very much for your presence here. We always appreciate you in the listening and viewing audience as well. Those of you on YouTube and also on Facebook, these are the two social media platforms that we are streaming for now. And so we appreciate you being with us each and every time. Today, being the 20th day of August 2023, and yes, it's another day to give the Almighty Father thanks and praise for just having us in the land of the living one more day. This evening, we have a very special invited guest among us, no stranger to us in Dominica, Miss Adelaide Paul. You're going to hear from her in a while. I call her the very patriotic sister. I dub her the Harriet Tubman of Dominica. Really and truly, sorry, really and truly, whenever you hear about Miss Adelaide Paul, she really and truly gives it her best shot in terms of, helping to free, helping to salvage what is left of our country, Dominica. So you guys are in tune for very special treat this evening. And so I just ask, make yourself comfortable. But whilst you do that, please share the live at this time. So without further ado, let me move across to say a special hand hello to a man, he's always there. Alvin Thomas, good evening to you, my bro.
Yes, Lofty. Good evening, my brother. How are you doing?
Well, I'm under some waters in Dominica, but we're good.
Well, I see one of our folks who have logged in says good evening, and they said it's raining, so we can stay an extra minutes inside, extra 30 minutes.
I know.
Good afternoon to all our Civic Vibes family. A pleasant Sunday to all. I know it's raining out there where you are in Dominica, and as I understand it, it's not just in Dominica, it's in other parts of the region. I just heard from a friend in St. Kitts who said that it's been raining all day as well in St. Kitts. But notwithstanding, a pleasant good afternoon to every one of you, Civic Vibes family, those already tuned in to this Sunday's program. And I want to say welcome, and in a special way to welcome anyone who is joining for the first time. I know the program is growing, so we have the regulars, but we have folks who are coming on board for the first time, having heard the message and want to be part of the conversation. So I say a pleasant good afternoon to you. And like Lofty, share the link. Don't keep the information to yourself. The purpose of this, what we're doing here on Civic Vibes, is to share the knowledge, share the information so that you can be a better informed citizen, a better informed person, and make an informed decision. And of course, I want to say hi to my good friend there, Adi Paul. Man, like you said, this is one person who stands up for Dominica. And that commitment is so, I can't even find the words to describe it, but certainly it will be a pleasure to have her. I know the conversation is going to be very engaging. The emotions comes across when she's discussing issues that relate to Dominica. It's not just from the mouth, but from the heart. So good to have you, Adi, and certainly we're looking forward to a very enlightening conversation this afternoon.
Yes, indeed. Alvin, thank you very much for your opening remarks here. It's always a pleasure, Alvin, as well, to have you, give back to country in terms of your usual, well put together deliveries right here each and every Sunday on Civic Vibes. Folks, the numbers that you can call into our program sometime later to be part and parcel of that conversation, they are 245-2396. Again, I want to repeat, 245-2396. You could either call these numbers directly or WhatsApp wise, and also 615-9470. I'll be plugging those numbers in the chat, in the live feed, just in case you have missed them. But again, just to repeat, 245-2396 or 615-9470. And as well, your comments, your questions, whatever it is you want to plug in that live feed here as your contribution to the conversation, we always welcome that, and we do our very best to share it as well. Without further ado, people, let us go to the patriotic sister of the hour, or the 2 hours rather. Miss Adelaide Paul, a pleasant good evening to you on behalf of the Civic Vibes team. Welcome to that space one more time.
Oh, thank you, Lofty, and thank you, Alvin, and oh my goodness, you guys. Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks are extremely large shoes to put my feet into, and I don't know whether I have, there, but certainly my passion for Dominica, my passion for my town, the town that I'm from, the town of Portsmouth, has caused me to be here. Oftentimes I say, that's it, I'm done. I can't deal with this Dominica issue anymore. But I think I give homage to my mom and my dad who, raised every single one of us in the spirit of a true civic citizen in the town of Portsmouth. And I give homage to the both of them who got us involved at a very young age in everything civic in Portsmouth. from, taking part in school activities to being part of the Brownie and the Girl Guides and the drum majorettes. And every single show there was at PSS that I was, got myself involved in. Competitions, spelling bees competitions, science competitions. Of course, culturally, everybody knows me. My mom got us involved in all the ballet competitions in the Portsmouth Cultural Group. I was a very active member. Quadrille, Carnival, Portsmouth Queen shows. Days when Portsmouth had a heck of a carnival organization where we had all our shows. My sister Anne, rest her soul, who passed 10 years ago, I celebrate and remember her this week particularly, because this year on the 23rd is her birthday, and it'll be 10 years since she passed. And I think my sister's passing kind of sparked that maybe interest in going back into the civic part of Dominica. From that, just doing Miss Dominica, Miss Wobdwayet, representing Dominica overseas in England, and then migrating to the US. I never really did leave Dominica. For a period of time there, I went through some personal stuff. So I kind of felt like for my healing process, I had to kind of divorce myself from it. But Dominica always called me back. I got back involved in, the whole Dominica aspect when I attended right here in Queens. I attended a meeting one time where they were rebuilding the church after that earthquake that destroyed the Catholic Church in Portsmouth, raising up in Portsmouth as a Catholic. And I met Monty Douglas, joined the organization, became the president for, 5, 6, 7 years. We worked so hard. We had so many activities culturally, raising funds. We raised in excess of $100,000 to rebuild the church. We went to see, I actually came home and sat with the bishop to ensure that myself and Christy Alcide and another member, not Patricia, I can't remember her name right now. We sat with the bishop to ensure that Father Shapley got control of the monies to rebuild the church. And that was the way that the Catholic Church was rebuilt in Portsmouth. So my entire life I have devoted to community work, community organization. For those people who don't know me, it's nothing that that's new to me. I got involved even further when I kind of visited home and I attended one of the diaspora meetings, kind of leading to where I am right now. And I sat there and I listened to the Prime Minister and his team of people. I jotted down questions, and that was way back in, I think, 2013. And I was just kind of already watching the trajectory of Dominica. And when the meeting was over, it was pretty much a show. Nobody could ask questions. Nobody took my questions. And I'm like, what is this? Why can't we, if we're sitting in a meeting, why can't we ask questions? And that piqued my interest in Dominica and the trajectory that it's on. And so this takes, I guess, all of this has taken me here, maybe everything that I've learned back then and the love for country. I think another very big contributing factor to my being so involved in what is going on at home is being from the town of Portsmouth. And people who hear me will always remark, they'll always hear me, talk about, the fact that, I hate to say it, but the people of Portsmouth and the North are the reason why Dominica is destroyed. Everybody who is in government, who is a decision maker, people that I grew up with, people who would come at home with my brothers and my sisters, and even me, I interacted with. I'm looking at them today, the people who are making decisions that are destroying our country. And it is sad that these were the people who walked with Rosie, who stood up with Rosie, who chanted with Rosie against the system, a bourgeoisie system that we grew up in, where we always said, everything is in Roseau, everything is in Roseau, everything is for one set of people. And we grew up in that environment. And it certainly takes me back to that place where we as a people from the North, when you look at the people who are making the decisions for Dominica, they are, every single one of them come from the North. And this sometimes maybe that is my motivating factor, because I know the way I was raised and what we saw and what we did and the plans we had for our town and the country. And when I see where it is going, this is what every day forces me to continue pushing forward. I just want to say a special good evening to everyone on the live tonight, everyone in the diaspora, everyone at home, everybody who in some form or another is affected by what is happening in Dominica. But I know that Dominicans are very proud people. When we're out there, we raise our flags. We show Dominica. I hate to say sometimes, when I'm out there, I went to a concert on Wednesday, and every time they call the different islands, Antigua, if you're from Guyana, raise your hand. And out of the many, maybe 30 times that, the other countries were called, it's only one time I heard the name Dominica. And I was like, what's wrong with us? We don't even exist, So I think that, as a Dominican people, we as Dominicans, we are the only people who can put our country on that map of excellence, on that map of people who want a country where every time another island is highlighting other islands, Dominica comes up first. And we as a people, no matter where we're from, we have the ability to do that. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Lofty. Thank you, Alvin. And thank you, everybody, for what's going to happen tonight.
So Adi, you see why I give you some big shoes to wear in terms of, mentioning people like Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, those women, the female gender who really and truly fought for some of the rights that you people are enjoying in America today. We
Amen.
also have our own female freedom fighters here who fought zealously among the people like Bala, Congori, Facel, and these guys. We had Zabet, we also had Angelique. Some names just come to mind now. And trust me, Adi, whenever you speak, I feel that level of enthusiasm. I feel that level of passion for country. And so just your opening remarks, we really seen the live feed already bubbling up here, and persons are really warming up to your sentiments here. So again, thank you very much for, giving us some of your time this evening.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah. Alvin, I seen you want to say something, Alvin, before we get into the meat of things.
No, I myself would, I would like to endorse the opening comments by Adi. She have touched on a number of areas there that I think resonates with a lot of us Dominicans, wherever we are. Those who are logged in now and even those who may not be logged in but would hear the comments. It resonates. We are proud people, Dominicans. We're hardworking people. I've been in the US and I've heard it so many times. You go somewhere and you run into a company or a CEO and he tells you, or you understood that a Dominican is working there. And they will tell you, man, this Dominican girl or this Dominican guy, man, this is one of my best workers. I don't want to lose there, but where you from again? Where you from? Dominica, where is that? They're trying to figure it out in their own mind. That tells you who we are. We've always worked hard. We travel and we do well. We come out to North America, wherever it is. We work, we buy our homes, we establish our families do well. The other day, there is a program on DBS called Connecting the Dot. And there was a young girl there. I think she's the daughter of Harris. What's the name now? Harris used to be a teacher at Convent. Her father was Harris Incorporative. And this girl is a leading oncologist professor at some big university in the US. Training other doctors. She must be maybe just in her, 30s or thereabout. And it goes all over. We have Dr. Dangleben. The list can go on and on. So it tells you who we are as a people. And when we see now what's taking place in Dominica, it really, really hurts our hearts. For those of us who know what it was before. So yeah, I resonate fully with what Adi has said and look forward to very engaging conversation.
Yes, all right, Alvin, thank you very much, folks. The topic for tonight's discussion, tonight's conversation is basically let's take back. Let us as a Dominican people take our reform. That is under the microscope, that is being scrutinized tonight. So please wrap your minds around that all important statement tonight, a statement where we're going to deliver. Adelaide Paul, she's there and she's going to tell you as well just how we as a people can do just that. But what would be the program without you folks in attendance? So let me just move across to the live feed now to touch some of you guys by name, and then we're going to get into the meat of the program. We have Lucinda McDowell-Fole, Yakima McCoy, Patricia Fontaine, Youtheli Vidal, Bernice Cothy, Everlasting Peter, Pat Corbett, my brother in the North area where Adi's from. Good evening to you. Justina James, Dave Bertrand, Carol Jules Matthew, Angela Paul, Joseph Parilla, Margelle Durand, Lorraine Lestrade, Bernice Coffey, Bernard Ulysses, Marshall Lawrence, Vernie Vash, Owen Prosper, Glenda Lavidou Burden, Althea Rennie, Carol Jules Matthew, Pearlson Shillingford, Elaine Laville, Karen Joseph, Jan Joseph, Marina Charles, Alex Powell Bruno, Eliza Louis Gomes, Rosemary Isles, Maury Jules, Ferdinand Lawrence, Clyde Gregoire, Omar Monell, Yosila James, Pascal Roach, Chiquito Thomas, Alistair Irish, Pascal Roach, again, yes, I mentioned him already. Who we have here again? I'm seeing some name recurring here.
Ashby Scotland.
Ashby Scotland, Gina
Juanita
Castle.
Prince.
Yes, go ahead, Alvin.
Juanita Prince, Stephanie John Baptist, Kellen Sanders. What we have there? Masabad, Man Alexander, did I got that right? Carol Ford, Clarilyn Warrington, Avril Bertrand.
We also have Royston Francis, John Alfred, Jaira Hector, Amelia Watson Duvini, San Joseph. You mentioned Clarilyn Warrington already. Curlin Sanders, that's a brother from Granby. Massa Maben, what is his name? Alexander, that's my brother from Granby. Good evening to you, sir. Stephanie John Baptist, you mentioned Ashby Scotland. Juanita Prince, locked in from New York at this time. Gertrude Abraham Dejean, you're also locked in. Madeline Augustine, brother Peter Carbon. And folks, the list goes on and on and on. So yes, we are happy to have you, and we're about to, set sail, as it were, into the topic for the hour, where we are talking about what can we do as a people now to basically set things straight as it pertains to the much talked about electoral agenda for Dominica. Ms. Paul, I know you do some teaching, and so a lot of persons would want to hear from you in terms of just what is your initial impression as to the topic under scrutiny tonight, when we're talking about taking back our reforms, setting Dominica straight, as it were, where electoral matters is concerned, we as a people. How would you break that down to the listening public?
Okay, thank you, Lofty. Well, I think the issue of reform is just probably the most vexing issue in Dominica for many years. Maybe it started, and I don't want to, maybe it started, but I know one of the things that really kind of started this whole difficult situation for Dominicans, both at home and abroad, was that very infamous letter by Anthony Astafan, where when electoral reforms were supposed to be done, he wrote this letter and essentially caused that electoral commission to not provide those reforms. Ever since then, it has been a burning and hot topic issue on the minds of Dominica. Mark you, elections, just the name, it does the word elections, no matter which country you're from. This is one of the most important issues for any country. People say, "Oh, I'm not in politics. I didn't even vote." But everything that we do, every decision that is made, is governed by that very sacred thing called voting.
And Adi, just before you go, just hold your foot right there. You mentioned a letter which is very critical to the conversation that we are starting with here this afternoon. You mentioned it, and I would just want to zero in a little bit and give the listening public and the viewing public an idea of just how long ago that letter, that email was written by none other than a senior counsel in Dominica named Anthony Wadi Astafan, a staunch supporter of the Dominica Labour Party. And it was written about 15 years ago. So that basically puts now into proper context the conversation that we're having for the need for free and fair election. And that letter was written on the 27th of March, 2008. And I just wanted to, set that there so the people now can more, have an idea of where you're going with that conversation as you started with that all infamous letter from Tony.
Yes.
But Lofty, let's not stop there. Let's, for the benefit of our folks who are clinging, read that letter, reference the letter. The letter, and I'm not sure if I have it, but it's right. It's not a very long letter. And it is subject, as you say, it's from Anthony Astafan. It's dated Thursday, March 27, 2008 at 10:27 a.m. Urgent, the subject it has. And that email is addressed to Roosevelt Skerrit. Now, it didn't address to Prime Minister, it addressed Roosevelt Skerrit, roosevelt.skerrit@gmail.com. And it was copied to Alec Lawrence, alecl@yahoo.com, and also to Hatley Henry @gmail.com. Now, that Hatley Henry, you know who that is, Lofty? Is that your cousin or your brother-in-law?
None of the above.
Hatley Henry is the hitman, the man who does all the campaigning and all that sort of stuff for the Labour Party as a party. Okay? Now, the email says, brother, please do not drift too far. Bear in mind, the email is addressed to Roosevelt Skerrit. So he's referring to him, brother, please do not drift too far. Try calling you again today and just cannot get through. So he's in a haste. He's trying to call Roosevelt and he cannot find Roosevelt Skerrit. I spoke to Kwandwani this morning. Kwandwani was a member of the Electoral Commission representing the government side. So look at the connection there. The letter is going to Roosevelt Skerrit. It's copied to Alec Lawrence, who is also on the commission, and it's copied to Hatley Henry, who is just an ordinary and outsider, whereby the commission should not be influenced. There is madness going on at the commission. So he's referring to the work of the commission, what the commission is doing as madness. You need to call in Richard and Kwandani. I live today. These guys are talking about reform to include ID card and complete registration. And you have those in bold, complete registration. Such reform will undermine your election legacy, as the opposition will say, look, the commission agreed with us. Reform was required because of widespread fraud. And exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Sign Anthony W. Astafan, SQ.
Yeah.
So it's important that those who may not have heard it or heard it again, let's understand, as Adi is trying to say, how we have arrived at where we are today.
Yeah.
So I just thought I wanted to put that in.
Yes, Adi, sorry about that, but we just had to inject that there. Thank you. Go right on.
And you know, I just want the audience to know that this wasn't planned. We had no idea that we were all going to come around this whole. I didn't have the letter. I actually wanted the letter to read it at the consultation. And I searched it, and I should have reached out to you all for that letter because I thought that would have been a very relevant letter at the consultation. But to the audience, this wasn't planned. And this is an issue that every single one of us is affected by. And, you know, that section, those two words, ID cards and clean re-registration and ID cards. These were the two things. These are the two things that are causing all the strife in our country right now. These are the two things that are turning brother against sister, neighbor against neighbor, diaspora against Dominican resident. These two things, ID cards and re-registration. So when I know for some people, they did not even bother watching the consultations. And that is, I respect that. I respect Lofty's views. I respect Siri's views. I respect all the people who said that this is a joke. It is a farce. We're wasting our time. And I totally understand it and I respect that. I also respect the people who decided to go to the consultations to have their voice heard. Because you know what? It is registered. Their voices, their concerns, concerned Dominicans, the lawyers who spoke, the politicians who spoke, the business persons who spoke, the people in civil society, and even we, the diasporans who spoke. And all of these they are registered. And so these two factors, re-registration and ID cards, it is going. Anthony Astafan, as you noticed, the first night he was there speaking like crazy when the lawyers, and he was supposed to be there because it was the night of the lawyers. However, the second night he showed up when the politicians were supposed to be there and they gave him a forum. And he kept going on and on. And I was wondering, I had to ask, who exactly is he representing? Why is he there second night? Because that night was meant for the politician. Unless he's a politician, that was meant for the politician. We have the observers there. I don't know what the observers are going to rule, and I don't know why they're there either. But what we do know is that we have a history of the observers giving reports. And while they may always come out of elections were free, suddenly they have had concerns about our elections being fair. And it goes back to these very two things, a voter ID card and the re-registration. Now we have a situation where we hear this big word called disenfranchisement. Everybody feels that they're going to be disenfranchised. And I'm not going to go into the whole nitty-gritty of the whole disenfranchisement aspect of it, which again, who brought up that word over and over was Anthony Astafan. And then you had Vince repeating it and all the people on the DLP side repeating it. I also want to note that on the night that the diaspora spoke, the very diaspora that Roosevelt Skerrit claims to love so much, he was absent. He didn't even give us the respect to be there. The very supporters that were crying, yeah, I want to come home and vote. He did not even make himself available. If he was there, I certainly did not see him there. So I really don't know who exactly we're talking to. He didn't even feel that he needed to hear from us. But he needs the vote from the diaspora for that winning legacy, that stealing legacy that Anthony Astafan spoke about. So after having listened to everything there, Lofty asked me to break it down, taking back our reforms. Taking back our reforms. It is ours. Elections are ours. It is our right. It is not something that should be manipulated by certain people who have more money, more power. It is ours. And again, the people who attended the consultations, including myself, we registered our concerns. But like I said, everything has to be on a different level. So we need those people to voice their concerns. We also need on different forms, the attorneys in Dominica, the lawyers, my goodness, what is one of the lawyers? Thank you to the two lawyers who represented, and they really did a fantastic job. But we need the other lawyers to get brave and bold and do whatever necessary. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all the legal jargon. But whatever that side of it they need to do it too. And we need the politicians to get their people mobilized. Because, listen, Roosevelt is a creature of habit. I looked at him and I listened to him, even making certain comments. Maybe Lofty will play a certain little video that I sent to him. The way he twists things and manipulates things that have happened to make it sound like, yeah, but I did this and I did that, but I did this and I did that. But I didn't want that when I was trying to do this. And with that little smirk on his face, and and that's how his little manipulative, psychological, stupid little games that he plays that people sometimes fall victim to, because they're like, oh my God, he's so funny, and oh my God, and those little things, and as simple and as trivial as those things might be, these are the types of things that catch people off guard when it comes to Roosevelt. So we need to take back our reforms. The people, we the people. So we represented. They can't say that we did not represent, but it has to be done on different levels. We need the people movement right now. We need the people to move. And so all these different organizations in Dominica, in one way or another, whether it's one day you get 5 people from one organization marching in Roseau with a flag or with a placard or something, we have to mobilize the people in one way or another, because that is the only language that people such as Roosevelt understand. Just quickly, if you looked at the recently in Israel, Netanyahu wanted to pass some really extreme laws. And the people were out there. And maybe he has passed it, but he's made certain changes, not as drastic as he was going to do, because, at the end of the day, they do have the power. But the people have the power to move the legislation, to change it. And so where we are right now, if we sit back and we wait and then we react, whatever Roosevelt wants, Roosevelt is going to get. He has his thing very well structured, but now, in order for us to take back our reforms, it must come down to the people. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. It must come down to the people, and that final point, Adi, that you raised, really and truly, it is the gist of where we, the people, need to get to in Dominica to start that process of really taking back our reforms and taking back our country. Alvin, any thoughts from you as we're moving on?
No, absolutely. I think Adi has said it quite well again. It goes back to the people. I mean, I have said on this program before and other programs, I mean, when you look at the Constitution, it starts with we the people. I mean, it's our Constitution, it's the people's Constitution, and whatever we do is all tied in with the Constitution, and we have the power. I mean, even the whole question as to your right to vote under the Constitution, and as is reflected in Section 33 of the Constitution, it talks about you, the individual, the person, the voter, having that right to elect a representative of your choice. So she's absolutely correct. But like she said, it has to be done in a very, if I may say, a very systematic, organized way, and it can be done. Let's not fool ourselves. Let's not try to shortchange ourselves. It can be done. The people has to be motivated, mobilized. I know we might get to it later on in the conversation, but I understand there is an upcoming rally, people's rally on Wednesday. And I would hope that as many people showed up to the rally. Let's put down our colors for a while. Let's put away our blinkers and stop looking at individuals. The point remains, there's going to be a rally where the people have to be involved, and let's join and let's take back the reform, as she says. I know we'll get to it as well, but I got a little note from a friend of mine, and it says there, as we put focus on residency and who should have the right to select a parliamentarian representative, a parliamentary representative is selected to speak on behalf of the people living in a section of the country at a particular time for 5 years. And that nobody is disenfranchised, as again, the word has been bandied about now, if they're not present. The strength of the government depends on the independence of the parliamentarian. If they feel that their own power comes from the people living abroad, they did not have any commitment for those living in the constituency. So it goes back, and I think that is so true, it goes back to the people. And I think all is not lost. We can take it back if we want it. We have taken it back before, and I think we can take it back again. So I endorse the comments and that Adi has made. And as I said, as we get further engaged into the conversation, I will make a few other pointers.
All right, indeed, folks, it is already quarter to the hour of 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, we're going to take that all-important break. The halfway break, that is, will also let you hear that advertisement advertising that match/walk/meeting for Wednesday, organized by the lead people in Dominica, that is the United Workers' Party people. And so Civic Vibes is endorsing that match, which got the blessing/permission of the police, so that we are encouraging all and sundry, every one of you guys out there who has an issue with the type of malgovernance we have in Dominica, then you need to be part and parcel of that work. Let's show your face in the place. Be counted, because we always ask for numbers. Here is another opportunity, a perfect opportunity to be counted. And so we're expecting to see a number of persons there sending that clear and unambiguous message to the powers that be, that we are now in the mode of taking back our country, as we are discussing tonight.
And
yes.
Yeah, I would consider that the people's consultation. That would register the people's consultation, because as maybe some of you are aware, that again, in Roosevelt style, he's going to take these meetings to the different constituencies. He's going to take them to Portsmouth, which is a Labour stronghold. And this is supposed to cover the whole northern, from Capuchin all the way down to Kenfield or something like that, which is madness. I mean, you have so many communities, St. Joseph, you have Collyhoo, you have Jubla, you have Omahu, you have all these communities. So all of these communities are going to go to Portsmouth for consultation. Then he has Granby, which is another DLP stronghold. I mean, how is that a true representation of the people? And then they're going to take it to the Kalinago territory, which, of course, again, it's excluding a whole group of people. So how do the people voice their concerns? How do they make themselves be a part of this? The only way we can make ourselves a part of this is to show up. That's the only way we can register our this taste of what is going on right now. Because he's not going to change it. He's still going to leave it as the Portsmouth and the Granby and the Kalinago territory. What about the people in Marigot? What about the people out in Paybush? What about the people, again in Collyhoo and St. Joseph and all these different areas? What about people in Grand Fort? What about the people in Petit Savan? What about all these people? So in order for there to be a fair representation of the people expressing what they want in those reforms, and it really, Lofty, to be honest with you, we're having this conversation. Mm-hmm. When you think about it, it's really just such a waste of time. Because we got the 2008 letter. We said what were the two things we needed? ID cards, which of course every island, if we go by every single island, we talk about voter ID card. What is so difficult about that? A simple voter's ID card. Now they're talking about constitutional change and all. Yeah, we do need a review of the constitution, but just stick to what is it that will make our elections on par with the other islands. We like to compare ourselves with other islands. Not talk about election modernization. What's modernization about that? Allowing in that consultation, by the way, and it's good to listen to those things, I heard people saying that CBI people, I think Francis Barron said it, and there was another lady who said earlier CBI people have they have our citizenship. So yes, they can come down and vote too. So what are we saying? That we're going to have people who live in other countries determine Dominica's life? Already people are struggling and suffering and every pain that they feel based on decisions that they didn't even make, that other people made for them and disappeared. No, we want to widen that and call it modernization. So how are you going to make yourself be heard? What about all the young people in Dominica? Yeah, we see over and over, and I hate it because we sound like a broken record. We see so much, we see so much decadence and oh gosh, the drunkenness of whether it's a system that's created to just keep people in a state of maybe painlessness, to not be aware of what is really happening around them. Unfortunately, it seems to be working, Lofty. And so we need all the people to get the young people to move. Okay, so we have Montserrat. Montserrat, you appeal to the ghetto youth. Get a few ghetto youths. It may not seem like a lot, but have a march. The Freedom Party, have a march. Everybody say, let's unite. Well, if unity is difficult to come by, for now, another day, Civic Vibes, CCM, whatever, women's group, everybody's marching for one thing, for a voter ID card and re-registration for people who live in Dominica, residency. You want to vote, come to Dominica. If you really want to vote, you come down here, you leave for some time and then you register. It's as simple as that. But the people have to say, this is what we want. We live here. We are the ones who can't afford to buy the groceries. We are the ones who can't afford to take loans to send our kids over to university, and we have to be shamed and disgraced when we get the so-called government scholarships and they can't continue. Register it. I know there is fear. Oh my goodness, there is so much fear. People even want to people even want to see make you, people who won't even like stuff that you write because they're so afraid that other people will see them liking your stuff. There is that fear, that perpetual fear, and that was systematically done by this administration. But the only way we're going to do it is to, I mean, I don't know how to say it. Sometimes it feels like a losing battle, but one thing I've learned in life is that you can give up, even at the times that it seems the worst and it seems like there are no answers. You still have to keep pushing. You still have to keep pushing because we just don't know. We never know when that breakthrough is going to come, And if we prepare ourselves for it, maybe just when that breakthrough comes, we can take it. So everybody in some way has to lead. You from Portsmouth, you have a car, call a neighbor, let's go to Roseau. It's something that has to be ongoing to Lofty. It can't just be one day and it disappears.
True, I agree.
It has to be continuous. That's why I say the small groups. It might be a big one, it might be a little one. Let people on all the time see people have their voicing their frustration out there. Nothing is gained by just sitting back and wishing.
True.
Nothing is gained by just sitting back and wishing. It's baby steps, step by step by step by step. But you have to be consistent. You can't stop. You must continue. You have to go on. There's some things happening in your life that if you stop, it won't happen. But every time you take one more step, Even if one tiny, minute change that happens, you must continue. It is worrisome. It is frustrating. It is all those people that tired talk, all those people that tired cry, all those people that call the radio, all those people just they can't give that up already. Oh God, the man have money. The man have plenty money. The man can buy everybody. The man can buy everything. The man can send your child to school. The man can. But what's going on? We look at our neighbors. People are dying like flies, no health care. I mean, it's trickling down to the average. No visa. You need visas to go overseas. And people haven't really started feeling the crunch of this. So what are you going to do? Just sit down and cry? We have to save ourselves.
True.
It seems like there is no hope, but we, the people, we always have the power.
Yeah, and Adi, you said it so right. You said it so right in that we really cannot stop. We have to continue. We have to be consistent, and we have to be persistent at that. What I want to do just to crystallize that consistency you're talking about, Adi, in that, for example, in 2008, when that infamous memo was written, the cry then wasn't that too loud for free and fair elections. But over the years, we have been consistent at it, maybe not too unified, I must admit, but there was and still is that consistent call for our elections in Dominica to be much more transparent, much more free, much more fair. And so we have gained strides, we have made strides in that whole electoral reform agenda for Dominica. And I want to compliment the people who have been at it. People like you, Adelaide Paul, you have been, I mean to say, when I hear you speak about that, as I said before, it's like you like any professor lecturing Dominicans as to what to do, the do's, the don'ts. Alvin Thomas, a lot of persons, the opposition parties, the ordinary callers to the radio, the persons that you meet in the streets, even the persons on the farm, the business people who are suffering, the young people. And so there has been this relentless call for freer and fairer elections. And so I really don't want to paint it a picture of this doom and gloom situation. It could have been done and dusted already. I must accept that, if there was this much more unified approach to it. But having said that, I must acknowledge and accept that the pounding of the pavement, as it were, wasn't that loud in 2008. And 2023, I can tell you, you cannot pass in anywhere in Dominica for that electoral reform talk not to be mentioned. Some persons may not want to hear it. Some persons may play like a Saul and see and hear, see and blind, hear and deaf. But at the end of the day, it must be said, it must be told that talk has resonated, and it's just a matter of we the people now to see it through the finish line. And that is why, I am now appealing to Dominicans through this program tonight. We have reached thus far. We cannot give up now, as Adi said. It is us to make that extra effort. So whenever these legislations go before Parliament, once it is not in our interest, even if we think it is in our interest, we cannot take chance with the Dominica Labour Party. Let us show up in our numbers outside of Parliament, because we must know what will be tabled before Parliament in order to be debated in their own way, form, or fashion. And so that is where the power now we have to exercise must be. So let us be prepared to do what we have to do so that we can rectify that thing once and for all. Don't leave it for Adelaide Paul. Don't leave it for Alvin Thomas. Do what you can do. Your energy, your strength, your skill, your talent added to the number of other people out there, it will do the trick at the end of it. So I just wanted to rest that there as we're about to take a break in just a while. But Adi, you made a very critical point in that you said Wednesday's match should be dubbed the people's consultation. And that for sure is a true magnet or a true dragnet as to pull the people Let us come and discuss now. We heard the sham going on. Let us come and discuss as a people what we can do together to ensure that that thing that is taking place in the State House, it doesn't come to fruition. It's what we, the people, demand. That is what should go through before Parliament. So I like that phrase in terms of you basically saying or suggesting that Wednesday's engagement should be dubbed the people's consultation. Went down very well with me.
Thank you, Lofty. And just to add something to that, because it's the people. It is the people. At the consultations, I think one of the most profound presentations at the consultations was this young man from Montsevier. He had an incredible presentation. He said everything that needed to be said. So while people may think, well, I don't agree with everything that Montsevier may say, but Montsevier will have that capacity to pull certain people who believe in what they believe. Because at the end of the day, we're all fighting for one thing. But one of the things I realize is, kind of reading so many conversations about unity, which is really critical. But for some reason, we just can't seem to get that unified one thing happening. So if we can't, at this point right now, we're not going to stop movement because we can't get that. What we have, let's work with it. All right? What we have, let's work with it. And so if Montsevier, with their appeal and their style and their format can appeal to people, let them come on another day if they don't want to match on Wednesday, or if they feel like we want to continue this another day. Alex Powell has his party. Let Alex mobilize his people. Let them come out and match. Doesn't have to be Wednesday. It could be another day. And so in so doing, there is always that presence. There is always that presence. But leadership, when we talk about leadership, the people, you have people, and you mentioned something earlier, about Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks. They were on the front line because they were ordinary women. We have the people like Blue. This woman is such a brave woman. When this lady speaks, Siri is out there talking relentlessly, making those videos, educating people in his style, and there are people resonating with Siri because Siri has so many subscribers. And I watch Siri videos. I watch Miss Telix videos. I watch Tad, Black Pepper's video. And anybody who is for that, because we all have different styles. And that's one of the things I had to kind of sit back. Even me as an individual, I had to take a few steps back and listen a little bit more and learn a little bit more and try to harness ideas that I may not necessarily agree with. Harness those ideas a little bit more. Because if we do all those things, there are different ways to get to a point. It doesn't mean that you start here and it's going to end there, Lofty. There's so many little segues in and outs that in terms of getting there. Sometimes the person that starts is not the person who ends it.
True.
Along the lines, we create leaders. We have so many leaders. Leaders are there. We cannot think that there is only one leader in Dominica that can. Roosevelt is a manipulator. That's what he does. I watch him. I study him. You when you're listening to Roosevelt, you have to maintain a straight damn face, and you have to watch this man and the way he. But you know who was good for him? That guy in Trinidad understood his psychology and he mashed him up. Because he understood that psychology, that nonsense that he came with. Even the leaders, when he was talking, you could see them cringe. Oh my God, what the hell is that man saying? You think in Dominica talking to people and trying to manipulate and come with that nonsense that people just take. So in the many ways, we have all these leaders that are there, Lofty. We have so many leaders, people we think who might be a potential leader for Dominica. That person is somewhere out there, maybe has not even shown himself or herself yet, But it's in the action. that we are going to empower people, and people will empower others. And that is how we're going to move people. That is how we're going to move people, that each person take it upon themselves, a responsibility. You give a classic example. Daria called the other day about the whole gardens
issue.
Yes, she called. This is a leader right there. This lady is a leader. And yes, people will laugh and say, oh, they didn't. But there were certain things that came out of that. A lot came out because that one person took the initiative to do something. And that's just what I want to appeal to the people of Dominica. We still have the power. And like I said, it's not everybody who will follow you, but the people you need to be there for that movement. When Dr. King started, always remember, he didn't have a whole group of people who believe in what he was saying. Say, this man is mad. Who do you think you're going to take us all black people for? Many people didn't want to follow him, but as he continued and he persisted, and there were other people who joined and they joined and they joined. And other people took other trajectories, other ways, other means, other groups. But we all eventually came to that common goal of civil rights for every American. Same thing can happen in Dominica, Lofty.
True. All right, Daddy, thank you very much. An hour has flown past us. And so, yes, now is that time we're going to take that all-important break. We're going to play that ad about 2 or 3 times, basically asking persons to join that match come this Wednesday, and thereafter to follow a public meeting on the arch on the riverbank. Let's do this. We'll be back in just a bit.
The time is
The time has come to put Dominica first and to make Dominicans first in Dominica. The time has come to stand for the best Dominica for all the sons and daughters of Dominica. Wednesday, 23rd August, 2023, from 1 p.m. at the Pottersville Savannah, the March for Dominica, to demonstrate our collective responsibility to rescue and rebuild Dominica. The March for Dominica, from the Pottersville Savannah through the streets of the capital to a massive national public meeting on the Roseau Riverbank from 3 p.m. The time has come for one and all to do what is right and stand for right. That is why the nation will march. Wednesday, 23rd August, 2023. Join us.
The time is
The time has come to put Dominica first and to make Dominicans first in Dominica. The time has come to stand for the best Dominica for all the sons and daughters of Dominica. Wednesday, 23rd August, 2023, from 1 p.m. at the Pottersville Savannah, the March for Dominica, to demonstrate our collective responsibility to rescue and rebuild Dominica. The March for Dominica, from the Pottersville Savannah through the streets of the capital to a massive national public meeting on the Roseau Riverbank from 3 p.m. The time has come for one and all to do what is right and stand for right. That is why the nation will march. Wednesday, 23rd August, 2023. Join us.
The time is
The time has come to put Dominica first and to make Dominicans first in Dominica. The time has come to stand for the best Dominica for all the sons and daughters of Dominica. Wednesday, 23rd August, 2023, from 1 p.m. at the Pottersville Savannah, the March for Dominica, to demonstrate our collective responsibility to rescue and rebuild Dominica. The March for Dominica, from the Pottersville Savannah through the streets of the capital to a massive national public meeting on the Roseau Riverbank from 3 p.m. The time has come for one and all to do what is right and stand for right. That is why the nation will march. Wednesday, 23rd August, 2023. Join us.
When a child disappears in the middle of the village and nobody sees, nobody knows. Nobody sees, nobody knows. Is the village still a village without a child to raise? When nobody sees and nobody knows. Child life endangered means innocence is lost. We've become predators of the children living among us. Can't call on Jesus, he already died for us. Now it's up to us.
All right, Dominica, that's the brother Dice saying that everything is lost in Dominica.
We place our
We remember young Kanisha from Warner.
people take this serious.
But folks, we're having an all-important conversation here with Miss Adelaide Paul talking about the need to take back our country.
Everything's lost, everything's lost.
So far, so good. It's already 10 minutes past the good old hour of 7 o'clock. Let's get back to the live panel here as we continue on here. Ade, before we go to the live feed to take some comments, folks, remember the numbers to call. They are 245-2396 or 615-9470. So anytime now, please feel free. Those lines are now open up to you guys. But Ade, yes, in terms of the second leg of our conversation here, what else do you want to add in terms of just how we as Dominicans can come together to, take back our country from the clutches of the DLP?
Lofty, I do, it's no secret that we seem to have an issue with unification. And if there was a magic wand to say unite, it would have happened. Because I think what many people fail to understand is that there's so many systems and structures, and sometimes people probably who feel that they've worked tirelessly and ceaselessly and really hard to develop some type of organization, they don't want to push that aside. They may have a certain ideology because, it's like, some people have a different way of governance, a different ideology. And so they may find it very hard to push aside. Sometimes you're not just dealing with one person, you're dealing with a number of people within a system and a structure. I wish, like I said, I wish there was a magic wand. I say, let's start with Wednesday and find maybe neutral people who can kind of bring those different parties together, whether it's somebody local or somebody that's not local. The thing about humans is that many people have who they like and they don't even want to listen, and that is a problem. And so as people who really have a common goal of knowing who the common enemy is, I hate to use the word enemy, but the way that these guys have treated Dominica, they've treated Dominicans, the residents of Dominica, as their enemies. And so if we come together as a people and determine that this administration, in order for us to have a better Dominica, this administration must go. We may have our different ideologies. We can be fighting each other all the time, or they're in public or infighting. But maybe, I don't know who, whether it's a church person. Some people don't believe in religion. Some people don't believe in God. But, you know, it has to take a bigger, it's the picture, the problem is bigger. This is about survival. And so if we can find that common something, a common person that can come in and bridge all these different organizations, parties, groups, civic, if we can just find that. I don't know what the formula is, Lofty, but all I can say is let's start. Let's start somewhere. There is something on Wednesday. That's a start. That's a start. Hence the reason I said maybe the other groups can have a match too on another day. It may seem disjointed, but maybe during the process of that, we can come together, find a common path, or maybe there might be one thing when that bill is going to Parliament, when we can all come together. We know what I think the whole idea is bringing that awareness that this thing is going to go to Parliament. This thing is going to go to Parliament. And when it goes to Parliament, if we don't stand up, we're going to have, for the rest of our lives, a monkey on our backs. And maybe that needs to be hammered in over and over and over and over. And that maybe like what we were speaking about Lofty earlier, the whole 2017 thing, how the people were able to stop that from happening. Maybe that is the only way. Well, Lofty, I don't have the formula. I don't have a magic wand. All I know is within ourselves as human, we have to find that path. If you're not a communicator, get somebody who can communicate. Keep an open mind.
Thank you, Adi. We have someone on the telephone. Let's give that person that opportunity. Caller, yes, good evening to you.
Hey, good evening, Lofty, and good evening to Adelaide.
Hi, good evening.
Adelaide just said something, and whenever I hear people say it, it irks me. When I hear people talking about let us get a neutral person, this is it's life and death as far as I'm concerned. And if you are drowning, are you going to say you don't want this person to come and save you because the person is not your friend? So when I hear people saying, let us get a neutral person, whoever is taking the charge and is leading, everybody needs to join and let us go. If your hatred for one of the brother man is greater than your love for Dominica, right, then we are all going to perish. And so irrespective of who is leading for a right cause, I am calling on all Dominicans who are within Dominica and who are capable of being there on Wednesday to join in and do what has to be done, okay? It would seem that people in Dominica are so accustomed and the corruption being bred in Dominica is so much the norm that people don't want to fight against it. They want to get there to have their part of the corruption. And in so doing, they will fight against anybody who has an objection to corruption, right? And that is what I see happening on the ground in Dominica. People want to have their share, to say something sweet in there. And so they will fight anybody who's coming up against them rather than fighting the enemy, as Adelaide said. Is it right? It's the enemy. Right? This present government is an enemy of the state. Good night.
All right. Good night. Thank you very much, caller, for your views expressed here. We appreciate you calling in, listening, calling in into the program tonight. In terms of some of the comments, Alvin, would you dare take some of the comments so that Adelaide can respond to some of them, please? But thank you, caller.
Yeah, let's see what we got there. Hold on. I think
Okay, for example, let me just start the ball rolling, Alvin. You'll catch up. Avril Butchran is saying here, every event should be viewed as for all Dominicans to attend, just like how the caller was alluding to earlier. Even though the organizers are a particular group, it cannot be named for the group organizing it to just be plain for, it should be plain for all Dominicans. Yes? That's an all-important point that Avril Bernard is pushing here.
And I agree with her. I absolutely agree with her. That's a very good point. And hence the reason I say, some people they may say, okay, I don't want to follow this. And the person who called has a very good point. The sad part of that is, human nature. We say this, but how does it translate to the people who just don't want to go, or who feel that it's a person, a personality, a party, communication? At the end of the day, like I said, we are fighting a common enemy.
True.
Whether it's the UWP, whether it's the DFP, whether it's the TUD, whether it's Munsewier, whether it's Civic Vibes, whether it's CCM, we are fighting a common enemy. And that's the point, that if we cannot come together on that one ground, that one day, why don't we do other things on other days also? The very people who may say, okay, I don't want to deal with the UWP, let them do their thing. You can do your thing too, and pull other people with you. Because at the end of the day, if the more we do it, is the more that psyche of, oh, it's a person and it's a party will be removed, because we have one common purpose. We have one common purpose.
Yes, indeed. Adi, we have one more caller on the line calling in here. Caller, yes, good evening to you. Go right on.
Yeah, good evening, Adi. Good evening, Lofty. Good evening, Alvin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. The caller a little while back there, who was referring to Adi's comment, and I get his point, but you see, a lot of times, Lofty, what we don't pay attention to is the real conditions on the ground. The real conditions on the ground. The movement is taking a little longer than it should have, because it got bogged down in that political polarization. And the reason why other voices need to step up is we need more statesmen to step up more than politicians. Everybody think it's a political thing. It's a political thing you have to be. But it's not really politicians we need to stand up. We need regular citizens. We need statesmen to stand up. That is what we need to stand up, because the more examples, the broader the examples of standing up, is the more impact it will have on others towards standing up. Is that kind of situation that we're at. But the emphasis on more political is not helping it. It is not helping it. It's more non-political, processes we need to happen to make this movement stronger.
Yeah, but Zed, if I acknowledge your voice here, but having said that though, would you still encourage, as Adi said, that is a start, let us come under that umbrella on Wednesday and at least start the process going in earnestly? Would you submit to that?
Yeah, man, Lofty, man. I mean, come on. My talk is not about that. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
That's the point. Is empower. We have to empower each other. But I'm telling you, part of the reason why we are at this juncture is because we have not emphasized the other aspect of it. We've made it a political problem when it really is a civic problem. So I just want us to be a part of what we're talking about, making it more accessible, is the very reason why we need more statesmen to rise on this issue.
All right, point taken, Zed. Thank you very much. Point taken indeed. Yes, indeed.
Sorry. Go ahead, Alvin.
No, I think while I agree and understand what Zed is saying, I think where we are now, where we have reached, at the juncture we are now, let's focus on the objective, what's ahead of us. I think that is one of the main things that has to be done starting up Wednesday moving forward. Let's start trying to figure out and quarterback, Monday morning quarterback, how the guy should have played the ball or not play the ball. We have a game ahead of us, and let's focus ahead of us how we're going to win that game. And in order to win that game, I'm saying everyone must come out on Wednesday. Everyone must come out on Wednesday and express their displeasure. Let me just go back a little to Tony Estefan. As Adi said, Tony Estefan was there on Monday and Tuesday. And you know what Tony said? Tony said, I will fight on the disenfranchised or whatever he referred to. I will fight, he says, publicly on that particular position. Tony Estefan, is prepared to stand up and fight, to defend his position. Are you prepared to stand up and fight? Sure. That's the question that needs to be asked. He's prepared to stand up and fight. Are we prepared to stand up and fight as well? And let me just say one more thing on that. When in 2008, Tony Astafan wrote that letter in his personal capacity, as I would say, because it came from Anthony Astafan with his personal Gmail to Roosevelt Skerritt, that was a clear violation of our Constitution. Because under Section 56 of the Constitution, Section 56(11), it says there, in the exercise of its function under this Constitution, a commission shall not be subject to the direction or control of any other person or authority. And here you had the commission was engaging in an exercise as a commission, and Tony as a person intervened and stopped the commission from exercising its function. So herein lies again, I'm saying to all the attorneys that may be listening out there or not out there, we've seen a complete silence of the commission. We must be on guard, and we have to protect our Constitution. And it even means going to the courts to do that. We have to do that. Concurrently as we protest, as we walk, as we march, we have to do the two things together. We have to walk and chew gum, because what he did in 2008 was a violation of the Constitution. And in my unlimited view, that could have been challenged in the courts. If it could have been shown that Section 56(11) of the Constitution was interfered with by he writing to a commissioner, copying the letter Kwandani, who was on the commission at the time, and Richard, and having the commission stop its work. So let's focus on what's ahead of us. Let's look forward. Let's look forward on Wednesday, and let's march ahead.
All right. Thank you, Alvin, for your salient points here. You have a point to make. I want to get back to the live feed, Daddy.
Okay, yeah, quickly. I'm going back to what Zed said. Again, I think at the point we are right now, we don't have time to sit and say, let's go back. Let's try to unite this thing. We have a start. We need to continue. And again, I will express one of the most poignant presentations, maybe by the two people, I would say Monsewe and Mr. Isaac Baptiste, when he had that powerful presentation. So again, we have so many people who can step forward, and as this thing continues, they can emerge as more and more leaders. We need people to target certain sections. Again, maybe the United Workers' Party in their framework may not be able to target the real ghetto youth, but there might be another group who can target the ghetto youth. Maybe they might not be able to target certain women, but there are certain women who move forward, who can move other women, and let's just do that. Let it become a real people thing.
Yeah. All right, let's take about three questions, comments, scenarios on the live feed. Adi, you respond, and then we get back to another three, because our listeners and viewers, they are part of the conversation as well. Margel Dura is writing here, the Poland uprising started by the people on the dockyard. It was sustained pressure until the dictator was removed. A trade unionist was elected president. To this day, things are going smoothly in a democratic country. He concludes by saying, therefore, everybody must come together for the common cause. That is Margel Dura's point. Jeffrey Brisbane is writing here, the march on Wednesday, 23rd, come one, come all, time to move the dictator out of the cabal. Jan Joseph is writing here as well, we need to have persons from the crowd speak out, give them a chance to express themselves. Ali, I don't want to give you too much to chew on. Those three, at least you can elaborate on.
Yes, and as Margel said, what happened through that uprising is that somebody emerged as a leader. And that's why I say leaders are born every day. We have so many leaders, but it's because of the suppression in Dominica, we don't see them emerging. And so this is an opportunity to have new leaders. Jan is a leader. This lady has been let me tell you something about this lady. I met this lady in Dominica. This lady is on the front line. This woman is one brave woman. That lady is a brave soul. And I really hope that she stands up and she really gets the women moving, because this lady, let me tell you something. I don't think there is one person who can put fear in this lady. This lady is a lady who's on the front line. So when Jan say, let the people speak, because this really should be a people's consultation, they will speak. And here's one thing.
A matter of fact, talking about Jan, she have a photo that went viral. I don't know if you know that photo, Adi. A photo where she has a megaphone in her hand and her posture, and she's asking for the CBI unaccounted dollars. And I can tell you, Roosevelt, maybe when he saw that, he was maybe trembling in his boots.
I tell you.
Yes, I agree with you.
And she is relentless. She has never stopped. And this is a lady who is on the ground. So why is it that Jan is not scared to stand up? Why is it that Jan never feels like, oh my God, I'm so afraid they're going to suppress me? Yeah, I understand. I understand. Even me, in my position that of what I say and what I do, even within the fact that I do some, I have a small business, I had to think outside of the box because I was also targeted, even being here in the diaspora. But you can't allow this to shut you up. I've had family members say, "Girl, you don't talk, girl, hush your mouth." But we can't, because here's the problem. If we talk, we get victimized. And if we don't talk, we get even further and more victimized.
Absolutely, that's true.
People are living in Dominica.
Yes, indeed. And then Jeffrey Brisbane, basically, to sum it up, was asking everybody to come out.
Yes, and he's right. He's right. Let's start there. Let's come out. Let the people speak. Let them come out and show these guys that, listen, we're not going to just take what you're giving us. We're not just going to. The people, the observers, I think, are still there. It's time for the people to say to the observers, okay, you listen to these people in their setting. They stage the setting with the ministers on one side and the people on the other side, and certain people coming dressed in red like it's some kind of political campaign, which I thought was downright disrespectful, downright out of order and out of place. The kinds of arrogance and almost kind of looking down on people and laughing at people for saying some
pompous attitude,
pompous, stupid nonsense. Yes, pompous. Yeah, and so let us be we need this, Lofty. Wednesday must happen. Everybody, as many people as possible, come out. And guys, don't stop there. You have your groups, you get your, it may not be as big, but just relentlessly just keep going.
True. Alvin, I'm going to take another free, and then you will take another free after. Marina Charles says, thank you, caller. I guess that was one of the callers that Marina Charles is alluding to. Faith Sunshine here writes, yes, we must put all petty egos aside and join this time for a cause. Yes. Claudette Lendor is writing here, start by blocking the main streets. And Faith Sunshine comes back and says, every community should set up something and then join together as one for a massive protest. Add your thoughts, and then Alvin.
Yes. Lofty, I mean, again, it is the people. It is all about the people. And yes, I think Alvin mentioned something. We've sustained and relentless movement by the people. Lofty, we have to call out our legal fraternity. I mean, we must call out our legal fraternity. Again, kudos to Mrs. Knight and Gilden who were there. But overall, we have I think when we look at the amount of lawyers in Dominica, we seem to have more lawyers per capita in Dominica than any other island, And so I know I have been saying, it's just me thinking out of the box. Sometimes some ideas may seem out of the box and extreme, but sometimes they do work. Why don't we, the people of Dominica, file a lawsuit against Roosevelt Skirt and Anthony Hayden? People may say, oh, that's impossible. A lot of people have said to me, oh, why are you going and waste all your money because, they control the courts. But we never know how far those things can go. We have to put pressure on in every area. We can't just say, okay, well, we're going to go to the consult. So we had the consultations, the people doing the consultation. So the attorneys, please, guys, let's do something. Look at what they're doing. Let's start. I don't know. Well, we have to, and from so many different angles, we have to start, we can't be reactionary all the time. We have to be proactive. We have to be proactive and put pressure on this man. We have to put pressure on this man. He bends to pressure. We've seen it. We have to remember the 2017. We've seen him bend to pressure. And there is absolutely, once the pressure comes down from different angles, we can bend this man. Absolutely.
Yeah, Lofty, I see Chris Buguno is asking you, how can we diaspora and donate to the Wednesday march? Do you have any information as to on that or on the ground?
No, the United Workers Party is leading that march. I will leave that up to them to basically publicize how persons can donate to that cause, all right? Okay. But Alvin, we have someone on the line. Let's just take that person and then we'll get back to you. Caller, yes, good evening.
Yes, Lofty.
Yes.
Yes, sorry for calling back, but I think it was important. Lofty, you see, I know people are saying, you know, let's do this here, let's block this here, let's do that there. Lofty, let me tell you, the most critical thing that we are missing in this struggle is just volume of people. That is all this struggle is missing. It's not about planning to do something over there. Lofty, we have 400 policemen in Dominica, Lofty. All we need, all that we have been missing is critical mass to send a message to the system. That is all we've been missing, you know. It is not, we don't need to plan nothing going there like it's some kind of espionage. You don't need none of that. All we need is for Dominicans to show up in critical mass. Once critical mass is established, the system understands what time it is. That's all we need you to do, is to show up. Show up. Volume is what we need to send a proper message. Peace and blessing.
All right, peace and blessings. Thank you very much for your point here, Zed. Yes, Alvin, back to you. We're not hearing.
Yeah. I'm sorry. We have one of the folks there said the movement have to be four corners of Dominica for him to understand, and we are very serious about this thing. And I guess that fits into what Adi said earlier, that it's yes, the match is taking place in Wednesday at Roseau, but we need to focus it to the length and breadth of Dominica. What's your take on that, Adi?
Oh, absolutely, Alvin. And hence the reason I mentioned all these different people's name, you know, in the movement. You know, you have the series. You know, I follow Siri. Siri has been educating the people all over by him. You have people like Blessings who relentlessly, nonstop, Arthi Mate and his group of people, even Paula, who used to be with you, Lofty. I know many people just felt like, you know, I don't want to do the talking anymore. Margot, so many people that have been constantly, relentlessly doing that. And so there is no magic formula and there is no magic wand. And yes, Zed, I hear you about mass. We need mass, but how do we get mass? We say we don't live in Dominica. We're not on the ground. There are many things that we think in our minds should happen, but the reality on the ground is extremely different but than what we up here think that it really is. And so I think at this point, while one of the things I have realized that from the diaspora that we tend to do too often is talk to the people, tell them what to do. We need to start listening to the people a little bit more. We need to stop telling them what to do and saying, oh, you know, they do this and they, and true, we live in a system where, you know, if I go out to Mass Pef and sell my stuff, nobody knows who Adelaide Paul is. And so when I come out and I set my table down there, nobody is going to victimize Adi. But if I'm in Dominica and I go to Portsmouth and I go by the market and I put my tablecloth down and say, oh, they're Adi from Morrison, those things, someone else be eating us plenty little, you know. So these are the kinds of realities that the people are facing on the ground. What we have to do is really join with them, give them that strength that they need to be out there. It's not easy. And we always have to remind them, we know that it's not easy. You know, we the people allow this to happen. We the people allow this to happen. No matter where we are, we all allow this to happen. We the people are the only ones who can fix it, Lofty. And so we have to work with the people, work with them, not talk to them or talk down to them, but work with the people on the ground to see what we can do.
But I also get Zed's point in that once we continue to do the grinding and the toiling, as you are alluding to, Adi, that critical mass that Zed is talking about will come for sure. So it's just a matter of sticking to it. Yes.
Yes.
Um,
certainly.
Pascal
Yeah,
Root.
that is so true, Adi,
Pascal Root.
that is so true, Adi, because movement builds over time. I know you referenced the civil rights movement in the United States. It didn't happen overnight, you know.
No.
It took years.
Oh, many years.
It took years. And guess what? Even when Martin Luther King was assassinated, we hadn't arrived there yet. They had not arrived there yet. So let's understand this thing. Let's understand how this thing works. I know there is the frustration as well, but as I said, let's look forward. And I think that forward is Wednesday. Wednesday is a forward day for us in Dominica. And let's not try to, as you rightly say, Adi, oh, we need to have 3,000 out there on Wednesday, or we need 2,000. Let's work with what we have. Let's move. Everyone come on board and let's move. And let's keep it consistent and sustained. That is the important thing. So after Wednesday, let's not wait for another 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Let's keep the pressure on. The pressure should be on every day moving forward.
And two, Alvin, I think a very critical part of it is just really letting the country know what is at stake. The country know, because there are people who still have no idea what the heck is going on. They have no idea. There's still people. I have some comfort though, because Lofty said, wherever you go in Dominica, you hear about electoral reform. Everybody can relate to electoral reform, because everybody in every community knows of somebody who came down and put a government on their backs. So I think every Dominican can relate to this subject.
True.
It's a matter of going out there and letting them know, hey, we want a movement, a people movement. We started, let's continue it in whatever way, shape, or form. Let's continue.
Yeah. Let's get back to the live video. Folks, you have a number of comments here. You can relieve Alvin and myself from reading your comments by calling in as well to the program. I just want you guys to remember that as well. The numbers are 245-2396 and also 615-9470. Okay, so please make use of the telephone lines by calling and making your contribution so that other persons can hear you live and direct as well.
I think Dory Drago says it well there on the comment. She says a mile starts with one step, my people. The important thing is to start somewhere.
True. Pascal Roach, brother from Granby, says, one thing I forgot, every voter must come to Dominica to register. In the constituencies you are resident, no overseas confirmation. Everyone must register here in Dominica. Okay, that's a comment from Pascal Roach. Adi, you'll respond in a while. David Joseph writes here, the fact of the matter is, and the reality, that everybody requires financial support, and few organizations in Dominica currently are not what we could say is financially stable. This puts a particular party in a slightly better position to organize such a rally / meeting / demonstration. He says, we the people must now put aside our biases and fight for Ma Dominique. Okay, thank you, Brother Joseph, for your comment here. Coulson Shillingford writes, woman power, girl power, girl power. They are the street of the movements. Let's go, my people. We can do it together as one. Adi, I'll stop here for now.
Okay, so I think the first caller talk about residency. He's right. You should only be able to register in Dominica, and you have to prove your residency there. But guess what? The only way you're going to achieve that is when the people stand up and say, this is what we want, or else we're going to get what Roosevelt wants. So that is a very critical thing. That's the reason why people have to stand up and say, we want people registered in Dominica. We don't want no machine going on somewhere in 4 places in the diaspora and just put people, next thing you know, a whole bunch of CBI people coming down to vote. So in order for us to get that, the people must rise. The people must stand up. The people have to tell this man, this is what we want. This is what we've all, hey, guess what? This is what we have always not even been asking for. That is what was supposed to happen way back when Tony Asafan screwed up everything. And in terms of financing, yeah, the United Workers' Party is a much more structured and organized party. It is much more structured and organized because they have a system that they've been following. They have maybe everybody may not agree with the ideology, but they sure have over the years maintained some kind of a lot of relevance in Dominica. This is the main opposition party, and so people, and that's, I think I alluded to that earlier, that every organization has a system of governance, and to just say you're going to just push it aside for everything else, it's a difficult thing. You have to work within that structure. It's not impossible, but people also have to understand and respect that this organization took years to build, and it exists because they follow this. I think everybody was very, I don't want to use the word happy, is too simple a word, satisfied with the last delegates conference that happened after we had this madness with the sham election, and then the United Workers' Party had its delegates conference, and it seemed like it was going to go right, and everybody went, and it was so structured, and Thompson Fountain emerged as the leader, and then we had a deputy leader, and we had a president. It may not please everybody, but it was properly organized because it's a structured system. It's the same thing. The DFP has a system that they go by. Montsevier has a system that they go by. And maybe the one that's the most organized may have, the United Workers' Party just raise funds, they just raffle the card, they have their fundraising happening on a regular basis, and they may have the resources to call out the people at that time. But credit to them, they are doing something. Hence the reason that, we may not like the person at the helm, we may not like the United Workers' Party per se, but they are doing, and that's the thing, we like to say many things, but when somebody is doing something, doing is different from saying. Everybody can say. Doing is a very, very different thing. Taking on responsibility, when you're a leader of something, everybody comes to you. The United Workers' Party is a leader in that constant, relentless thing on, scared. Lennox tells us this is the money that's out there. And it's the reality, it's the truth. Something happens, they're on it. So maybe everybody will not like the United Workers' Party, but we got to give them some credit for that. Other systems, will exist, or whether it's CCM or and at the point that Dominica is, funds are very difficult to come by. So we have to try now in our best way to see how we can accommodate that. And who was the last one? I forgot. I think I forgot what the last.
All right,
one.
we'll get back to it, but we have someone else on the line. Let's see if we can take that caller here. Caller, good evening to you.
Yes, Lofty, good evening. Interesting conversation, but I just wanted to engage the your panel.
Flacco, before you go on, Flacco, you have been getting a lot of recognition lately. Please just identify yourself and tell the people that is you who gave that splendid contribution at what we call the consultation in Dominica.
Oh, yes. Well, my name is Tyrone Nicholas, aka Flacco, member of the Civic organization. And yes, well, I just carried out what I see as my duty, and I think what is the duty of every citizen in the Commonwealth of Dominica is not a matter of me being a independent candidate or any political representative, but me having an interest in the future of my nation, and the legacy that will be there for my children to inherit. So, yeah.
All right. Now that you have said that, thank you very much. Your points now. You wanted to raise.
Okay. In relation to the retaining the ability to vote, I think that conversation, there's a lot of different issues, different perspectives when it comes to that. Particularly, I think people who have attained US citizenship, by that virtue of naturalization, would have taken that oath of allegiance to the US and their constitution, and in so doing, renounce Dominican citizenship. So a lot of I just want us to come out of the gray areas and really define certain, of the parameters that within that discussion. Because if I were to have an opinion, I think green card holders and perhaps non-immigrant visa holders would be the ones that we would be catering for in having, say, a diaspora constituency for voting. But I think by virtue of that act of naturalization, you basically renounce Dominican citizenship. So I don't understand why we are having this discussion about people who are residing in the US, having US citizenship, being able to vote in our elections. I think, also I want to add that in saying that non-citizens, because I listened to the chair of the consultation allude to something saying that basically non-citizens can vote in our elections, which is very misleading, and it in itself is an incomplete statement. Commonwealth citizens, once they satisfy the residency requirement, are able to vote in our elections. So there's a lot of gray areas, a lot of clear definitions that are not given to the people to provide context, And in so doing, I think that creates a divide where the incumbent kind of creates a divide and conquer scenario where he pits the diaspora Dominicans against the local Dominicans. So I just wanted to add a little more, scope and dynamics to, how I perceive the conversation.
And
So
Flacco, no, just before you go, Flacco, who in your mind is best suited to sort of clear up those gray areas that you mentioned? Who in your mind, the ordinary Dominicans or a legal expert like what's his name they hired there? Who in your mind can help us along that path?
Well, we have had the help all along, Lofty, because after every election cycle, we have had a list of recommendations that have been given to the Electoral Commission. And these recommendations have been impartial. They have been free from political things. If there was anybody who would say like, that is something that the workers want, or that is something that DFU, there was no confusion as to the impartiality of those recommendations. So I don't know why we are right. And Sir Byron said something that I think needs to press on our interpretation, that reform is a constant and an incremental process. So how are we contradicting that statement by now trying to pass sweeping reforms and in such a short space of time? I feel that reform is being given to the Dominican public under duress, and it is not fair to us. So, like I said, yes, we have to look at the contents of the reform, and in trying to manipulate the fact of the matter or escape the responsibility for him initiating an unconstitutional process, he is appealing to us to stick to the facts and the subject matter of the contents of the reform document and completely disregard the fact that we have initiated an unconstitutional process. It's fine to debate the facts, of the matters within the document, but let us first begin by acknowledging that the process has been initiated through an unconstitutional process.
True.
That's all I'm saying.
All right, Thaco, thank you very much, my brother, for your very poignant and salient points here tonight. Thank you for listening. Thank you for calling.
No problem. I'll be listening. Yeah.
All right, indeed. Yes. All right, we just had Flacco here made very important points here to us. Adelaide, any thoughts from you?
Sure. I just want to, commend him for his presentation, which I alluded to. several times this evening, because if you listen to him in its entirety, he really did hammer down on so many aspects of the reform. And he's right. I mean, we're here today, and we really should not have been here. We're here today because we really should not have been here. The observers, after they gave the report, they said exactly what we needed to do. Voter ID cards. I mean, there's so many so many issues that are happening now in that whole electoral reform aspect of it. You know, I went back and I was listening to some of the presentations. They're talking about constitutional reform at this point, because there's so many different levels that want to be that have to be initiated. Hence the reason I said the people really, you have the lawyers and maybe more neutral groups like the business associations, maybe the churches. These groups should really come together and just honor the constitution that exists right now. Give us what we need. That's what the people are asking for. If it's voter ID cards, if we have to establish what residence is, and the fact that, you know, once you become an American citizen, you've renounced you've disavowed your Dominican citizenship, and you should no longer be able to vote in the elections. That is quite understandable. But how are we going to get it there? Knowing what we're dealing with a man who is trying to pretty much bypass that and say, I just want to be able to buy tickets to bring down as many people as I can, and I don't want anything to stop me. And I want to be able to do it legally now, because if it's considered treating or bribery, whatever it is, I don't want to, you know, I want to be able to do it and have no repercussions.
All right, thanks, Adi. I asked the persons to call, and they are indeed calling now. So let's go back to the telephone lines. Caller, good evening. You're on to the Civic Vibe Sport. Good evening.
Yes, good evening to you, Lofty. Good
Hi.
evening to Alvin, to Adelaide, and to the listeners. Lofty, I have been trying to get through to talk on this topic for some time. I tried to call in or to get in on the consultation. It wasn't possible. And I thank you for giving the opportunity here. Something just came to my mind, and I just said, boy, you know, I have to call in and make this point, in addition to one or two others. But before I forget it, I'm going to make it now. I understand that Sir Dennis has proposed that the proposed legislation that he has presented should be put before Parliament and passed into law, and that as part of that process, if this legislation or proposed legislation is passed, that it should repeal, they should repeal the original legislation and remove it from the books. Now, I am one of those who is not very happy with with what has come of this lengthy process that has been way longer than it should have been, in my view. I'm not fully happy with it. And I am just wondering, and I'd like us to keep an eye on this. I am always subject to correction. I am of the view that Roosevelt Skerrit and his party are determined as part of this process to ensure that the laws that they intended to deal with, that they change their mind about because of the protest action, the laws in relation to bribery and treating, that they had no intention of forgetting about these laws. And Skerrit did in fact say that he was going to come back and deal with it. I am just wondering whether, if they repeal those original laws, whether this bribery and treating law will also disappear off the books. Because if there is no legislation within that proposed legislation that deals directly with the bribery and treating matters, and that is part of what would go if you have the original legislation repealed, then we will have nothing to deal with bribery and treating. That's the first point. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I've heard much talk about disenfranchisement of voters in the diaspora and so on. And the emphasis from this government is that we cannot disenfranchise these people. There are 2 points I'd like to make along those lines. Firstly, in my view, if you cannot cater for every single Dominican living outside of Dominica, when you pass your intended legislation to deal with registration of voters outside of Dominica's jurisdiction, then you are in fact disenfranchising those who cannot make it to those locations that you intend to register people at. That's number one. Number two, in relation to that, when you have a political party such as the Labour Party removing all rights from the people within their party to decide on who it is that will represent them, by removing the process that used to be there in relation to the choosing of persons through delegates, conferences, and so on. And the sole responsibility, the sole person to make that decision as to who is going to be a candidate is in fact none other than Roosevelt Skerrit. Then in my view, Lofty, the political party that's doing that, Roosevelt Skerrit as the head, has actually disenfranchised the persons within the Labour Party by removing that right from them. That they can no longer decide on who it is that's going to be their representative in Parliament or their candidate for such an office. Finally, I'd like to address the question of residency, because in order for us to register as voters, we have to satisfy a residency requirement. And that is that you must live within the constituency where you wish to register yourself for a minimum of 3 months in order for you to qualify to register within that constituency. Now, if you have that requirement, that residency requirement, in order for you to be able to register, why is it that once you've registered, this residency requirement, according to what they wish us to understand, that residency requirement disappears, and there's no longer any need for you to reside? That once your name is on the list, you should remain on that list, and you should be entitled, or you are in fact entitled, to vote no matter what, no matter where you live in the world. They make the comparisons with the United States. When US citizens have that privilege, because every single one of those US citizens, no matter where they live in the world, they are required by law to pay taxes on their earnings, pay those taxes to the US government. So whether they live outside or they live inside US territories, they are taxpayers. And as a result, they will be entitled to vote. My understanding is that they're entitled to vote for presidential and congressional and nothing more, right? So these are the two areas in which they can in fact vote, but they are taxpayers, and so they get that privilege. Also, because the population of the United States is so big, the taxes that they get will allow their government to provide everything that is necessary to ensure that despite the fact that they live outside and they vote outside of the United States, the process can still be free and fair, because the US government has enough money to fund that. The government of Dominica cannot be telling us that they should be allowed to go to New York and to Florida and to other specific areas to register persons, but they cannot do it in Indonesia, they cannot do it in Japan, they cannot do it in Hong Kong, they cannot do it in other parts of the world where Dominicans do in fact live. So on many levels, this government is disenfranchising, and they're trying to create confusion in people's minds as to what in fact is happening. But the key is residency. And if you see the 5-year thing, this is how I interpret the 5-year thing. And I believe we should set elections for a specific date, elections every 5 years. On that specific date, you have you're registered, and if you are no longer residing, you're residing outside of Dominica for more than 5 years, your name is removed from that list, not because they want you to no longer vote, but because they want to ensure that the list consists only of persons who are eligible to vote. Eligible to vote. And you become eligible based on residence. So if you've been outside of Dominica, resided outside of Dominica for more than 5 years, you lose that right to cast that vote legally, and so your name is removed, except for special circumstances where diplomats and so on working outside of Dominica and that kind of thing would be exempt.
All right, caller.
So that's my view.
All right, caller. Thank you.
Sorry for being so lengthy, my brother, but I hope it's clear.
It's clear. It's clear. You know, thank you for your very salient points that you raised here tonight. That is 3, 4, maybe even 5 of them indeed. It's already after it, Addy. It's already after it, Alvin. But this caller was making some very, very serious points here, and so we had to give him all the time he needs. We will take it down to about 8:15. You know, when we shut off. So we have like at least 12, 13 more minutes to go. Any thoughts from you guys based on what we have been hearing from our callers so far? Flaco, then what's his name? Brother Aline.
Well, well, I think they raised some very critical issues, critical points. The question of residency and citizenship, and bear in mind what there are 2 areas that Tony found issue with, and which is at the crux of the matter: voters ID and re-registration. Okay, these are the crux of the matter. If you recall, Lofty, when the CCJ issued their ruling in July of 2022, there was one specific area that they mentioned repeatedly, and they said that if nothing else is done, assuming that we don't do anything else, nothing else, one thing that has to be looked at is that list, that electors registry, because that's where the names are. And that's why you find some people are fighting and saying, well, oh, you can't take my name out, and if my name there, my name must stay. And it is all again to perpetuate that treating and bribing. I don't know how many of you may have listened to the consultation, but Vince Henderson came at the consultation and he said that if the Labour Party pays for a person ticket to fly them from America to Dominica to vote, it's like giving them a ride. There's nothing wrong with that. Those were his words. I mean, I hope the observers took note of that and was hearing him clearly. They can go back, those of you who are able to go back and listen to it. But those were his words. And this is what is at the crux of the matter, Roosevelt Scary don't care about diaspora and as in anything and all of that, All he wants is to be able to have that treating and bribing where he can fly somebody into Dominica, pay their ticket, have them go and go back. That's all. He don't give a shit about just folks in the diaspora that raising all that hells and making all those comments. And it goes back again into the clause that wanted to put in the 2017 draft legislation on treating and bribing and to make that legal. And they were not able to get away with it. My understanding when I looked at the current draft legislation and what Byron is proposing and what obtains now, the treating and bribing is pretty much the same. So in other words, what they were trying to push through in 2017 it's nothing there. I will take a second look again, but from what I've seen so far. So that is why now they're trying to hang on to this question of residency. That residency to say, well, oh, it doesn't matter, whatever, wherever you are. And that was the point too, that Tony forcefully made on the 2 nights that he came in. So at the end of the day, as it's been said before, we have to ensure that, and Dr. Andre spoke very eloquently to it, we have to ensure and know what residency is. And let me say finally, Lofty, this is not rocket science. Barbados has a clause in their legislation that clearly states residency. It says if within 5 years you're not there, you can't vote in Barbados, whether you're in Timbuktu or wherever. Grenada has it. Jamaica has it. Trinidad has it. St. Lucia, Antigua. What's so different about us? Seriously. Yeah. So that's what I would say on that. But I'm sure Adi would want to add a few comments on that.
Yeah. Adi, we are looking at the wind down time pretty soon. So just sort of kind of bring those points together, especially from our callers as we are looking at the finish line.
Yes. And I'm just going to just essentially follow up with what Alvin just said. It really is simple. They're making it complicated because they want certain things. And Lofty, let me tell you something. People in the diaspora who are fighting about coming down to vote, if these people were to buy their own tickets to come down to vote, they would buy their tickets to come down for Carnival. They would buy their tickets to go down for Creole Festival and have a good time. Many of these people would not buy tickets to go down to vote. The only reason they're talking and these people are making all this noise is because these guys, they have the war chest, they have the monies at their disposal, and they're able to buy tickets or charter flights to bring down people to vote. And again, we go back to we started with it and we're going to end with it. It's the same letter, 2008. Alvin said again, the CCJ said, why can't we need to get this whole thing re-registered and simply give somebody a voter ID card? These two things, all the other things about all the other constitutional stuff we can come to later. But just that, let's just get our elections up to date. They talk about modernization. Let's modernize our election by doing what every other country does. Voter ID cards and re-register our voters for the people who live in the country. And that's it, really. And that's what, and one more thing, Lofty.
We have somebody waiting on the line.
Oh, sorry. These are the two things that when the people go out, say the people's consultation, these are the two things that the people should be demanding, voter ID cards and the re-registration of people who live in Dominica, period. That's it.
That's it. Thank you, Adi. Caller, good evening to you.
Yes, Lofty, me again, Tyrone. Just wanted to kind of call back and zero in on something in particular that I want to bring, kind of bring it more into the spotlight. For as long as we have known ourselves as a nation, we have a situation where people can take up citizenship in other countries, and as part of that naturalization process, when they take that oath of allegiance and officially renounce their citizenship and their allegiance to any other state, we have people having citizenship and having renounced Dominican citizenship coming to Dominica, and by virtue of them having a birth certificate, they can apply for a Dominican passport, So I link that, I tie that in to the statement made by the chair of the consultation, when she said that, she suggested that people would be able to basically use their passport to have access to the electoral process. So I just looking at how lax we are, how little discussions we have had on such imperatives, because when we talk about national security, we talk about all of these things, and we talk as if these things are so important to us. Yet we have people who can go pledge allegiance to another nation, renounce our citizenship, and still come and have a passport and participate in our electoral process. So we have to really give deep consideration to every part of what we are considering, because the implications are not just for us. It's for countless of other generations, like we say, that have not been born, who will have to deal with maybe repealing some of these things if we actually do. So again, Lofty, just weighed in on the conversation, and I appreciate your efforts, brother. Continue on the front line. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much indeed. A matter of fact, Flacco, you and the Moon Series crew, I've already sort of touched base with somebody, and they said that they would really like to see the Moon Series engage us right here in Civic Vibe. So, you know, we are looking for some sort of, you know, engagement in that endeavor. Alvin, I see your hand up like a student in class. We have 5 more minutes.
Yeah, I'll try to be very brief. But I agree with what Flacco have just said. And he's absolutely right. And it goes beyond that. Let's even take it beyond a Dominican who may have migrated to the US and become a US citizen and now have a citizenship of the US. And of course, Dominica observed dual citizenship. But let's take it beyond. Let's take it with this, this economic citizenship that we have, the CBI. Right now, if we have, and I don't know, if you have 20,000 persons who have CBI passports or citizenship through the CBI program, 20,000 or 30,000, all of these 20 or 30,000 can vote in an election. So that is something he's absolutely right that we have to look at. And that is where one might say the next aspect of the reform, if we want to call it a sort of reform, has to do with the constitutional reform. To what extent do we allow those persons to be able, who get a passport within 3 months of applying for citizenship, and now be able to vote in our elections, if, of course, they meet the residency requirement and whatever goes with it. So that's a very important issue I think he has raised. And it all goes back to, again, the civic education that is required at all levels. But I will say we got to start with the basics. Clean that list. Give us that voter ID so that we can have a semblance of a level playing field. Every other island have far less voters on their list than their population. Dominica is the only one where our list exceeds the population.
All right. Final call. Caller, good evening. You are right on. Final call.
Good evening, Lofty. Thanks for this final call. Lofty, Alvin and made an issue, and Flacco brought up an issue. And we talked about the residency. But still, Lofty, if we were forward thinking, if it was really a conscientious government, the whole residency issue, we could have been so far ahead of the target. We could cancel the residency issue out of our election, you know, by having foreign constituencies. You know, we could involve our foreign Dominicans. Forget about all that thing, whether they have allegiance or not, all that stuff. We could involve them in our voting justly, keep Dominicans at home voting justly, and we don't have no residency problem on our election. But we're not forward thinking. You see? We're not forward.
All right, caller, thank you very much for your succinct point here in terms of, you know, the government not forward thinking. That's another conversation we can have all together. But folks, 2 hours plus have come and gone, and we really are enjoying the conversation based on the live feed, based on the calls, the comments. But, you know, as they say, time flies and we have to bring it down. Miss Paul, your final comments again on behalf of Civic Vibes, my friend. Let me thank you for taking 2 hours of your time tonight and coming to help inspire, help motivate, help educate the people of Dominica to take back the reforms, as it were. Final comments.
Oh, thank you, Lofty. And you know, so many concerns were expressed tonight, and in a country where we have good governance, all of these things can be accomplished without all these, like we say at home, local palace, he-gas. And the only way we can get rid of this he-gas is to take out the he-gas that is busting our tails right now. And I say it with no qualms. We started with the letter of Anthony Astafan, electoral reform, voter ID card, cleanse the list. Let's stick with that. Let people stand up. Let that be the people's reform and say, we want a voter's ID card. We don't want national ID card. We want the voter's ID card, and we want a cleansed list. These are the only 2 things that we need right now, and stand up for that. Everything else may come after, so that we can have proper elections to govern our country properly. Because everything that Flaco said and everybody else called about, these things can only be achieved when we have a proper government that is not hell-bent on manipulating every aspect of elections and our lives, Lofty. I really hope everybody goes out, become a part of this, become in some way or another a people person to move the people, and let's see how we can, at least claim back what is rightfully ours. Thank you, Lofty, and thank you,
Thank
Dominic.
you. Thank you. Thank you, Adi. Thank you very much. And again, thanks for your time. Thank you for your invaluable contribution to the conversation tonight. Alvin, final thoughts?
Yes, well, just to make a brief comment in terms of the last caller, our brother Zed. The late Rosie Douglas had proposed or had an idea in a way in which Dominicans in the diaspora could be represented in our parliament. I think he referred to it as some sort of virtual representation or some representation where you'd have a block voter person in the diaspora, let's say North America, which would cover, or you could say the rest of the world, North America, Canada, England, and the Caribbean. And you'd have, let's say, 2 representatives to represent the genuine interest of Dominicans who are overseas in the parliament. That, of course, would require some sort of constitutional change, which, we should, and we should be ready for that. So that was an idea of Rosie. And bear in mind, all what's taking place now with this Dominica Labour Party and this manipulation of the election is not what Rosie envisaged. He must be turning in his grave. Both he and Petra must be turning in their grave when they see what's going on. But I agree with Ardy. Let's start there. Let's start on Wednesday. Let's go out there and let's aim for that one objective. And that one objective is for we the people to take back our reform. Let's take control of it. Let's do what we know we can do. And I think again, too often we underestimate ourselves. We look at the glass half full instead of half empty instead of half full. And let's go out there. We focus too much on, well, we don't get the numbers. Well, this one. Well, we don't like this one. Well, why is Mr. leading? Well, why is that group? Let's go out there on Wednesday and let's start it. Let's be that the new day of our reform, and let's claim it back and let's insist. Quite frankly, if you ask me, I think Skerrit back is against the wall. Sometimes we give him more credit than he deserves and we discredit ourselves. But I think his back is against the wall this time around. And let's seize the opportunity and let's go out there and do what we have to do as a people.
We solid as a rock like Kalanje. Now give up. I said there ain't no giving in. And when the going get tough, I said the tough gets going. One juggle your fruits, don't give up. I said there ain't no giving in. Mama, Rastafari guide your knife from the beginning. Why oh why oh? Teacher now get paid, the government need for purge and process. Oh yeah. Police now get paid, so them find it hard for serve and protect. And all we get from the government is highlight bits and robust taxes. And them still a pressure the youth to run it hard on the road with them robot taxes. But there ain't no giving it.
Dominica.
Taxi you. Hey, I said the tough gets going.
Dominicans, that is the encourager for us tonight as we leave you. Don't give up the fight.
No.
We are not giving up. So to all of you who spend the 2 hours plus with us tonight, a special good evening to you folks. Hope that you guys enjoy every bit of the conversation that we had with you folks tonight. Very informative, very educational, and a few entertainment in between.
My people, don't give up. I said there ain't no give.
That is how we leave you tonight, by asking you, don't give up the fight for country.
From the beginning.
We have come too far, Dominicans, to give up now.
Youths in life say them can't take the pressure no.
To the young people, the young impressionable people of our land, yes, we know you're feeling the strain, feeling the squeeze, but a young man like Chronix is telling you in song, don't give up the fight.
Your bag and way, boy. But we still not give up. Me say we solid as a rock like Kalanje. Not give up.
So on behalf of the Civic Vibes team, it is 20 minutes past 8 o'clock. We are going to make our exit from your space. Please do enjoy the rest of your evening.
Don't give up.
We wish you a productive week ahead.
Mama, Rastafari guide your knife from the beginning.
Our special invited guest tonight, Miss Adelaide Paul.
Teacher not get paid, the government need for project.
Gave a good representation of herself tonight. Miss Adelaide Paul, thank you very much indeed.
It's hard to serve and protect.
But Alvin Thomas, always there, always holding that baton. Good evening to you, my bro.
Bus taxes and them.
And to all of you in the listening audience meeting Dominica, the region, all for the refill. Special good night to you. See you next week, same time, same place from 6 o'clock on the spot that you got, the Civic Vibes platform. Bye-bye, Dominica. We love you.
No give up. I said there ain't no giving in. No. Rastafari guide I night. Oh boy. I said my people, we've been facing struggles for so long. Job people, please me I beg you. Please could you hold down? I know the system have you down and you feel pressed down like 50 feet. After the battle, yeah, the victory sweet. Me say me still not give up, me just kiss me teeth, not give up. I said there ain't no giving in. Hey, how when the going gets tough, I said the tough gets going. Jordan believe me, not give up. I said there ain't